Hi guys, it's me again. I'm going through a bit of a midlife crisis. What's a guy with 5 copies of Black Ops supposed to do on the weekends?
All just because I ripped my pants. When Big Larry came around just to put him down.
This weekend's gonna be awesome.
Video games. We all own at least one, and if not, check under your pillow. Something might be under there.
Huh.
There are so many different kinds of genres of games that they're kind of impossible to all name. Stuff like action, RPG, adventure, horror, etc., etc. But there's one in particular that I want to talk about, and that's the fighting game category. Fighting games have been around since the late 80s to the early 90s with stuff like Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat. To put it simply, a fighting game is a game where you fight your opponent, usually hand-to-hand combat, punching, kicking, whatever, a lot of combos. Usually the 2D go left to right, but sometimes they're weird like platform fighters like Super Smash Bros. But otherwise, I'm currently talking about the regular 2D fighters. I've always wanted to get into fighting games, but they're always kind of difficult to get into. But I've always had an interest in them. It wasn't until I tried playing Guilty Gear Strive that I kind of found my ticket and was like, ooh, wait, this is kind of good. So after that I tried other fighting games out, but mostly I just stuck with Strive in the end, because I felt like that was the most comfortable game to play. Now why is this important? For a couple of years now, me and my friend group have wanted to make a game, and the common consensus was a fighting game. We even thought of characters that are in like completely different medias all being in a fighting game, and that led to me drawing a portrait of Peter Griffin once, which was kind of funny. It took a while, but then we all came to the consensus that we should just make a regular fighting game. No funny quirks, no funny business, no monkey business, just an actual fighting game. And that fighting game is what I'm here to talk about. Steelheart is a game focusing on Liam Steelheart and Charlotte, all with the goal of stopping her father, Connor. Along the way you meet so many quirky characters and you see so many quirky places, etc, etc, you get the idea. Playing wise, it's going to be something that's easy to pick up and learn, something like a Blaze Blue, for example, really easy. In particular, we wanted the gameplay to feel something like an Arc System Works game. And if you're not in the fighting game community, you probably just took that statement as a threat, but here, let me explain what I mean. We want the simplicity of games such as Persona 4 Arena, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, Under Night Ember 2, and Guilty Gear Strive. Wait a minute, two of those games have something in common, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
Adachi.
So very simple controls, very easy mechanics to learn, kind of just fun. We're also sticking with the regular keyboard notations and not the Tekken or Mortal Kombat's funky notation, because I feel like it'll be a little too hard to learn. Some fighting games use 6 buttons, some use 4. Fighting games like King of Fighters, for example, use something like 2 kicks and then 2 punches for each button. We're weird, kind of like Guilty Gear. We're a 5-button fighter. Each attack is weak, medium, heavy, ultra, and unique. Weak, medium, and heavy kind of speak for themselves on what they are. Ultra is just a second different version of heavy, sometimes tied to a character-specific thing. Now, there's unique, and unique is kind of really weird. So it's tied to a character-specific mechanic like Ultra, but except it's much more inclined to the gameplay side. The only character so far to use this is Clove, and you may be wondering, why does he have this? Well, one of his abilities causes him to restart the entire game. Yeah, I think you can see why he has this. A quick time event? What is this? Chris Redfield punching a rock? Not to mention he can give his opponent tetanus. What is this guy's problem? Okay, but what about the rest of the characters? What do they have? They have a different mechanic called special canceling. They can cancel any special into any move that they want. It's similar to Guilty Gear's Roman cancel, but except you don't stop time. You just instantly stop what you're doing and go into whatever thing you want. Like you can cancel into specials or into normals or just blocking. It's kind of your choice. And I think it's funny gatekeeping this from Clove because he does not deserve any of this. He's gonna be really weird anyways. Now, music. Music was weirdly one of the hardest things we had to decide on. Originally, I wanted indie music, but in the end, we all came to the decision that we should just make our own music, which is completely fair. And eventually we found our music man, Luca, who's British. Legally, he owns each song that he makes, but we pay him to make songs for us. So, hey, that's the first time we actually spent money for this entire project. The music we want to go for was something like Under Night in Birth 2 and Guilty Gear Strive kind of combined. The catchiness of Under Night in Birth, but like the rock and roll, weird kind of genres of Guilty Gear. One of the goals that we had with this music was to make sure it was definitely playlist worthy. Stuff like this. We definitely wanted some heavy hitters, and I think what we have so far for the game, they're pretty good. Each theme shows off the character's personality and has their own genre tied to it, but we'll talk about more what it means later for each individual character. Now I want to talk about the art and animation section, which is definitely a point I can definitely talk about since I do pretty much most of it. And by pretty much most of it, I mean everything but the UI. This is ugly. To animate for this game, I use Sprite. Sprite is a pixel art animation software, or art software if you don't like it. I've only ever used it for animation, but I've heard for stuff like pixel art, this is actually really helpful. Each canvas is 720 by 720, and I extend it if I need to, and I animate in 24 FPS. Very smooth. You're probably wondering what that ugly palette was before. That is an animation palette. You never really see it in-game. It's usually for the animators, so it's easier to tell which parts of the body you are working with. Everything sticks out more, and it makes it a lot easier to make regular palettes. I try to keep the palettes consistent by doing stuff like red hair or orange shoes, for example. And with being able to make any palette we want, there's a lot of variety in choices that can be made. We even have some that are references to characters from different media, for example. Wait, this one seems familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. For coding, we use Visual Studio 2022. I'm not the main programmer, Blake is our main programmer. She programs basically everything. I kinda just do in-depth character things, like this stuff. I am in no way a coder, I just kind of slowly learned over time while working on this, and sometimes I'd make stuff like this during the beginning of it. And this is our sprite editor, where I basically take everything from an animation and make it into an actual move or movement. I can tweak how long frames can last for, and how big the hitboxes and hurtboxes are. That seems like a very fair hitbox to me. Lastly, for stuff like character portraits and character art, I use Krita. Personally, I'm not a big Krita fan, but for what it does, it's pretty good. And now let's get to characters, starting off with Liam Steelheart. Liam is a blonde man with a sword and fire, and he's pretty cool looking, says one of our developers. Liam is an all-around sword fighter who uses a fire meter. Depending on whether or not you have fire in the meter, some moves will be amplified or just change. The story of Liam is that he is an ex-soldier. He used to be a soldier, one of the best, but then he suddenly left after he lost the war. And during the story mode, Liam's story will be about his redemption, which is why his song is called Someone's Hero. Charlotte, spunky blue-haired girl that has this funny stop sign and stuff, says the same developer. Charlotte is an aggressive Shoto brawler type. She likes to play really aggressively. She's kind of like a Terry Bogard or a Soul bad guy. She's also very silly, so she wields a giant stop sign. She's also very expressive, unlike any other character. Speaking of expressive, here's Clove, the opposite. The same developer described him as an indiscernible, quirky thing. Clove uses a fencing sword and juggles a lot. It's not shown in this video, but eventually he will have a mechanic involving a lot of cards, some of which I named before. Most being attacks, some being effects, some just being a whole new like special moves. And again with the expressions, he looks very bored. All of his movements are very stiff. And he's always surrounded by his little butterflies and Redrick. Speaking of Redder, from the same developer, he says, she's just pretty cool looking and has some cool swords and gun things. Thanks, Damien. Redder is a 3-in-1. Which means that she uses her fists, her swords, and her shell lock, which is basically a gun on her wrist. I haven't animated yet, But in her moveset, she wields a keytar, which is kind of a separate moveset for her. She gets 4 additional moves when she pulls out her keytar. Her swords are called Sin and Mercy, and her keytar is called the Decomposer. I like that name. Redder is very patriotic for her country, and also designs weapons for them. In the past, she wanted her country to be independent, and then eventually succeeded. And that's why her theme is called Kin of Kabe. These are just 4 of the 8 characters that we are planning for the full release. There's also a lot of lore to our game thanks to Damien, which is our main writer. When he's not writing side music for the game, he's usually writing a lot of lore, most of which will never be mentioned ever. But if we ever need anything, we can go to these documents. He's also single-handedly making the entire script for the entire story mode. The full release is going to take a long time, but we are planning on releasing an early build sometime by the end of the year, so just keep an eye out for that. We also make constant updates to the game, like how, after half a year, we finally have an actual stage. Kind of. Here's my grass texture if anybody wants to use it. I sometimes go back and update textures, or I update how moves work in-game. Isn't that nice? Excluding Luca, we do this all for free. We just want to make a cool game. We're hoping that it will be the best that it possibly can once it fully releases, and hope people will enjoy it. For updates, we constantly post stuff on Twitter every once in a while, but we also have Blue Sky, which we haven't really posted on in a couple months, but that's fine. But that's just because we have a website called h.games, and oh my god, are you serious? We have a tab dedicated to all of our projects. Project Hydrogen is Steelheart, and Project Helium is for our second game, which probably won't get started until Steelheart's actually done. But of course, this is the project that we're making right now. And if you are actually genuinely interested, check out our Twitter. That's definitely where all the cool stuff is. But other than that, that is everything I have to share. We hope people enjoy this game as much as we enjoyed making it. And until next time, bye-bye!